to stay, make a good lucha thing.
See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down.
This is such good shit.
It's time for the WrestleBois podcast.
Bologna, fudge, and mustard. My life is being ruined by the internet.
Welcome into another episode of WrestleBois. It's been a while. It's been a little bit, but we are back doing basically a wrap-up of the year 2020. Now, before I introduce everybody, I do want to mention that we are recording this on the night of the Brody Lee, John Huber tribute show, so we haven't all seen it yet, but we will be covering it next week, so stay tuned for that. But this week, we are going to be covering the year that was, the weird year that was 2020 in wrestling. And of course, I don't do this alone. I am joined by Neil Lommel, live from, where are you this week, Neil?
I'm posted up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, recording this, and it is great to be back talking to you guys again. I missed you guys. Yeah,
it's been about almost 3 months. It's glad to have you back. And what's that, Billy?
It's been,
and let's go right to it. Billy, well, how's it going?
It's just it's going well, man. I mean, it's been a rough week for wrestling fans, honestly. It really has, but
yeah, it has.
We're gonna have fun here, and it'll hopefully bring some light to what's been a rough week, to say the least, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, we're gonna look at the good, we're gonna look at the bad of 2020, and you got to admit there was goodness. I mean, it was a pandemic, but there was some good that came out of the pandemic in wrestling for sure. But Dante Smith with us. Dante, how's it going?
Good, guys. Good. It's good to be back, and good to be able to get a lot of some wrestling related thoughts off my chest, and especially a good week to talk with everything that's happened. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. So we are going to get into it. The year 2020 in review, the year of pandemic wrestling. And let's go over first some of the things that I thought at least worked for pandemic wrestling. Obviously, you go into a pandemic, you don't know what to do. First of all, kudos specifically to WWE. Now, I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing. They didn't miss a single Raw or SmackDown, correct? Like through the entire pandemic.
Correct.
Not that I can recall, but it's possible.
No, but they did have those pay-per-view build shows where they basically replayed matches the entire time and did like a couple live things, which
that's true. But they didn't shut down in like everything else did. So
there was no break. True.
So yeah. They wrestling was really, I mean, for a while. Looking back at 2020, sports-wise, I mean, you could call it sports, you can call it whatever you want. Really, it was the only thing going. Am I right, Dante? I mean, really, it was the only sport, athletic thing that you could watch for a while.
Yeah, I remember WrestleMania this past year was probably one of the most watched WrestleManias. It had complete media coverage because it was one of the few events, period, in live sports or entertainment that was still going on. So it's been an interesting year, so to say the least. It has,
absolutely. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting from the pandemic was kind of the inclusion. We had seen it a little bit in the past with like the Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt stuff, but cinematic matches was something that we saw a lot of, particularly in WWE. So let's start with you, Neil. What was your favorite cinematic match of 2020? And I think I know the answer, but
what? Oh man. Well, we really got treated well by WWE. I think WrestleMania, you had the two big ones. The Boneyard match with the Undertaker and AJ Styles was great. And now that we're talking about cinematic matches, I might have to go back and watch The Fiend versus John Cena again in the Firefly Funhouse match. That one was awesome. And I think That one had to be the furthest from a traditional wrestling match that we have seen this year, but it was still amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Billy, would you agree the best cinematic match this year was the Firefly Funhouse?
Yeah, I'm about to beat a dead horse straight into the ground. I mean, that is the ridiculousness of pro wrestling done absolutely right. I mean, there's so many subtleties that they paid so close attention to. There's so much attention to detail, and it was just so. It was not like we expected madness, and we still got blown out of the water. I mean, talking to you guys after it, it was one of the most insane things we've ever seen. So yeah, it's got to be number one. I mean, there's really nothing that I think even touches it. There's that really good stuff, the B tier, the A tier, but this is like double S tier, dude. This is top notch stuff.
And we'll talk about the other WrestleMania match, the Boneyard match. Dante, what did you think of the Boneyard match when you first saw it? And I guess comparing it to the Firefly Funhouse match, what a kind of really a crazy WrestleMania. So what did you think of the Boneyard match and what they did for kind of what it looks like Undertaker's last match might be, which is weird to say, but
yeah, I mean, you can say a lot about pandemic wrestling, but probably it was the best thing that could happen at the end of the Undertaker's career, because it took a situation that was meant to fail. And let's be honest, AJ Styles and the Undertaker in a straight up match like it would have been is something that would not have been to the best interest of either man.
Right.
So what this did was be able to hide some of the Undertaker's deficiencies, working wise, work rate wise, and be able to really lean into his character. And that's what we all love from the Undertaker. You want to see the Undertaker do the Undertaker stuff, light some things on fire, beat some druids up, bury some dude alive. Undertaker stuff. That's what we want to see, and we got the best of it. It was like a best hits.
Yeah, they made the best, because really was a match between AJ Styles and the Undertaker. At this point in the Undertaker's career, gonna be good in any way?
No, it would be hard. It'd be really hard.
Yeah, exactly. So cinematic matches, you had the good, you had the bad. I would say probably the worst cinematic thing this year for me was that weird thing that the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits did.
I loved it.
Oh, you did?
With the ninjas and yeah, I loved it. I don't know why I loved it. Objectively, I have to say that the Firefly Funhouse is the best cinematic thing, but like that Street Profits ninja thing was really entertaining to me.
It was something. And then of course we had the one where Bray, the swamp fight or whatever. Neil, what did you think of the swamp fight? Remember the Bray, and it had kind of an inconclusive finish.
Bray and Braun, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was a little forgettable, and until you actually mentioned it, I kind of forgot that match happened.
Right? Yeah.
Cinematic matches do work a lot of times, but sometimes when you're just having the match because there's no fans, I mean, I don't know. It just felt like they kind of threw that one in there. And that also was on the Extreme Rules card, which was also just one of the more ridiculous cards of the year. So
yeah, eye for an eye. We'll talk about that a little bit.
It almost kind of just blended in with the rest of the show. So yeah, it's a hit or miss with the cinematic match, usually for the good, but sometimes for the bad.
Absolutely. So let's move forward. Let's talk about some of the best feuds from 2020. The classic two wrestlers who don't like each other, but for particular reason. Let's go to Billy. What was your favorite feud or some of your favorite feuds of 2020?
So it didn't have all the best matches. It didn't have all the best moments. But if we're talking about cinematic matches, and it wasn't like cinematic, but the greatest wrestling match ever. If you guys remember, between Edge and Randy Orton, the really cool, when the MSG mics came down and they did the Howard Finkel voices to introduce Edge and Randy Orton, that was super cool. John Moxley versus Kenny Omega. I mean, come on, dude. I mean that's all you need to say. I mean, it's just that good. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, I think, really knocked it out of the park. And overall, we did like you said, we did have some really good feuds. that really, set the tone for, what was a year of wrestling that was super interesting to say the least. And we got a lot of super interesting stuff out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I think you had another one that more from the women's division that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, Sasha Banks and Bailey had a great feud this year. God, and I will say the reason that it was so great is because they let it build for such a long time. For the majority of 2020, it felt like they were both on the same team, kind of doing the heel thing. They were taking over SmackDown for a long time. And obviously they have a lot of history together being in the Four Horsewomen. They kind of when they were both on the same page, they kind of took over the wrestling business for a few months there. And that Hell in a Cell match, when they finally did turn on each other, that Hell in a Cell match they had was pretty awesome.
That was so good. Honestly,
3 Hell in a Cell matches that night, and that was my favorite match of the night.
Honestly, like we'll talk about favorite matches and stuff and favorite pay-per-views. Hell in a Cell, pretty good this year. After the debacle, the year before with the Fiend and Seth Rollins, like they raised the bar this year. Dante, what were some of your favorite feuds of 2020?
And Billy mentioned it, but I think it's important to kind of go back and just really touch on what Edge and Randy Orton did this year. A real throwback, slow burn, deep story that was so insane and impressive, something you don't really see a lot of. It was just amazing to see the twists and turns and see how that unfold with just like these gripping promos. And as you can see, there's still more left to it. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in 2021 when Edge gets back from injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was really sad that Edge went down with that injury. And just how about Randy Orton? Like, I don't know how many years he's into his career, but having one of the years of his life, like he lit it up this year, and he's still doing it now with the whole thing with Bray and Alexa, and he's having an absolute career resurgence where he went from boring Randy to like, wow, Randy's an actual legend killer, and he's beating up actual legends on a week-to-week basis.
I just want to say it. Dante kept telling us, and we wouldn't listen. And now look at us now. Okay, Dante told us time and time again, and we didn't listen. And now we're listening.
We didn't listen. We didn't listen.
There you go. You're absolutely 100% correct. What with the good comes the bad, and let's talk about we'll say some of the worst feuds from 2020. Just the ones where it was kind of either or why is this happening, or you didn't really care about it. What I wanted to bring up first is Retribution. What an absolute. They completely botched Retribution, 100%. Having these guys, these terrorizers from NXT coming up to the main roster, and they're going to destroy the whole company, and then they just lose to the Hurt Business every single week. Like,
what are they doing?
I don't know.
What are they doing? Like, give them it was so cool when they got Mustafa Ali because. Well, duh. I mean, he's a great, he's a great wrestler. He's a total package, right? Still nothing. Do something. Like I've said it so many times. Wrestling fans are so impatient, but it's been months and we've seen nothing. Nothing.
It's so bad of a slow burn here that he has a barn burner match with Ricochet on Monday, and it's like,
yeah,
it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Both guys deserve so much more.
Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to be serious or not. Like I just can't take them serious with the names: T-Bar, Slapjack, Reckoning, Mace.
Okay,
Ali.
Slapjack's a good name though.
Okay, but his mask, like I don't know what they're supposed to be. They went for months where it was just this group of like 10 people that were just dressed in all black. They had no character to them. I don't think they really knew who was going to be in Retribution. And that was lame. And then now you actually put faces to the name Retribution, and it's somehow even more lame. It's been, I don't know, like Retribution looks all right now, but not really. Like, it's been one of the low points of 2020.
And the worst part is too, at the end of it, they're just like, toward like the middle of it, Mustafa Ali's just like, oh yeah, but BT Dubs, that was the SmackDown hacker. Lol.
Yeah.
And and that was it. I mean, despite the fact that the hacker contributed to one of the better stories in 2020, which was Otis, Dolph Ziggler, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and the rest of us. Because we were all Team Otis, whether you want to admit it or not. I know you won't.
I won't.
I won't. You're right. I will not.
So another thing, this isn't necessarily worst feud, but something that let's say in wrestling, for someone who, let's say, skipped 2020 because of the pandemic, you'll mention it to them and they're like, huh? What are you talking about? Raw Underground. That didn't last too long, did it?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
See, WWE, if you have an idea that's not working, you can just drop it and we won't be mad. Like, you can just drop it. There doesn't have to be an explanation. We'll forget about it. It'll be a laughing point. But
No.
Dante, what do you got to say?
No, Neil. We're not just going to accept this. What the hell am I going to do with my Daba Kato shirt?
There were some highlights to Raw Underground, though. I mean, Titus O'Neil got a big win.
Yeah, and then he's kissed his son.
That was like
Dolph Ziggler was a shooter for like 3 weeks.
I'm a shoot fighter. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Marks, huh? I hate that. Like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge stuff. Oh my god, I hate it. But that's another time.
Then you would have hated WCW in like the 2000s. Then
don't get me started.
Because you would have hated that. So that's kind of the weirdest or kind of the worst of WCW. WWE or wrestling in 2020. Let's go to our favorite matches of the year, and I got a few that I want to mention. But first, Dante, just some of the best matches that stood out to you from the year 2020.
It's recent memory that always hits me first. I think Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series was such a monumental match that just showed WrestleMania main event potential. Speaking of WrestleMania, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins had what I think was a show steal at WrestleMania this past year that I think is going to go forgotten in history. But man, those two worked their asses off with no arena, doing major bumps. Credit to those guys. How
about? Wait, I want to mention one thing. Every time Kevin Owens is in the main event, he performs. Or every time he has like a match where he's put in a good position on like a pay-per-view, he performs. He did it at TLC. He did it at WrestleMania. Go ahead, Dante.
You could say that Kevin Owens deserves more screen time.
He absolutely does.
I think he's going to get it with this Roman Reigns feud because, man, that TLC match, too, was also one of my favorite matches of the year. Just great storytelling there with Kevin Owens just being the underdog who just wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
It's an incredible match, too.
Yeah, that was good. And then you had also, we got to mention in the best feuds of the year, the Jey Uso and Roman at the table and them becoming a partnership and just great stuff all around. Ever since Roman came back, he's been on a roll. So, Billy, some of your favorite matches of the past year?
I look at Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. I don't need to go any further than that. It's just that good. AEW really did have some really quality stuff that I think should definitely not go overlooked, especially here. So I would put Mox and Omega. That would be my number one. But number two, honestly, that TLC match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, they had me for a second. They really had me for a second. Yeah. I really thought that Roman was dropped the time. And as big as a Roman guy as I am now, and I'm huge, right? I was like, oh my God, please just give it to Kevin Owens. You can drop it the next night. I don't care. I just want to see it. But overall, I mean, those two are the ones that really. I know it's recency bias, but those are the ones that really stick out in my head. Mm-hmm. Anything that Bayley and Sasha Banks did. Yep. I mean, I'll get into this later, but my superstar of the year probably is one of them, Bayley. But so my favorite match from 2020. Now that I think about it, because all the stuff I mentioned earlier that was that good. Volta versus Ilya Dragunov on NXT UK.
I knew you were going to
mention that. If any of you have seen it, and I know you all have, it's violent without a weapon. It's storytelling without shenanigans. It is just a straight up fight. It is my favorite match. It is the match of the year for me. It was just so masterfully executed, just perfectly executed. No one looked bad. Everyone looked good. Just pure, clean wrestling.
I mean, it was
wrestling at its finest.
It was literally two guys trying to kill each other.
Yes, with their bare hands, mind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, your favorite matches, some of your favorite matches of 2020.
Yeah, Billy, I agree with you on the Moxley and Omega. I don't know if you're referring to probably their world title match that they had a few weeks ago.
That one.
That was just like one of those moments that felt like I wasn't watching the Attitude Era, but the ending of that felt like some Attitude Era shit. The way that match went down was excellent. My favorite match of the year, it's really tough, and like you guys were saying, recency bias, but I go back to, believe it or not, there was a time in 2020 where there were fans allowed before it started. So I go back to Revolution AEW in Chicago. You had the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page for the AEW tag team titles. I remember watching that live. And in retrospect, I appreciate it even more now, knowing that it was only a few weeks prior to the pandemic starting and everything getting shut down. But you had two great teams. You had the tension between Kenny and Hangman, two like top guys who are tag team champions, like two single stars who are tag team champions trying to coexist together. You had the tension between them, and you had the Young Bucks. You know, they're all friends, but I actually went back and watched this match again today just to make sure that it was my favorite match. And there were so many good matches this year, but I had to go with this one. It was awesome. They went for like 30 minutes. Kenny and Hangman retained, and that storyline continued down the road. Young Bucks are the tag team champions now. So I really enjoyed that match, and it was fun to go back and watch that one earlier today.
Absolutely. And I just want to mention that for all you New Japan marks, no, we don't really watch New Japan that much. You have Dave Meltzer if you want to hear the praise of New Japan. We're talking.
Whoa! Wait a minute. I mean, they do good stuff. I mean,
they do. No, I'm not saying they're not, but
you just called them a bunch of dumb marks, Gabe. You better either need to double down or backpedal. So you're gonna pick.
All right, I'm doubling down. I don't watch New Japan. I'm sorry. Whatever Super Juniors is going on, I don't know. I'm sorry. But some of my favorite matches from the year, keeping it in the good old US of A. Honestly, the War Games men's match was, I thought, really good. And I see we're still in an uproar over me calling the New Japan family marks, but whatever. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say the men's, like I said, the men's War Games match. Pat McAfee, one of the stars of 2020, because he can absolutely go. Like, I can't remember a main like a celebrity star, and you could call Pat McAfee a celebrity. He's a celebrity. He's got a podcast. Yep. Like, I can't remember someone like a celebrity, a non-wrestler who can go like that. I mean,
not Alex Jabali, so I'll take it.
Maybe
he's not pulling a Jabali, but man, that was really good. I mean, all jokes aside, he when you have, I don't remember who said it. I know it was someone on Twitter, but whenever you have a celebrity in wrestling, they need to get it. Yeah. If you don't get it, if they don't get it, that's fine. Just don't have them in angles if they don't get it. If we're talking about bad stuff, you know, we think about the guest host era, right?
Right.
I mean, you have people in there that blatantly don't get it. They don't watch wrestling. That's fine. There are people who don't watch wrestling, and that's okay. But don't have them on your friggin' shows if they don't get it. And Pat McAfee gets it, and he still gets it. And it's just it's a beautiful thing to see. When it works, it really works.
Also, what a great story to, like, we didn't even know Pat McAfee was going to wrestle, and then Adam Cole goes on the show, and they literally had me believe that Pat McAfee said something that set Adam Cole off. Like they like I literally bit that story. I actually believed that it wasn't a shoot or a fake thing. But yeah, some of the other matches of the year. Sorry, but the men's Royal Rumble was really good. You had Brock just killing it at the beginning. Just absolutely killing it at the beginning. I was at Dante's house and we were doing a drawing for the men's Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
a pick 'em. And I had number one, and I was Dante had number one, who was Brock, and I was gonna trade him what turned out to be Drew McIntyre for Brock's pick, and he said no. So drop the ball there, Dante. But anyway,
one thing that I don't mean to cut you off, but the one thing.
Go ahead.
There's a really good, like, I talk a lot about subtleties on here. When Brock Lesnar got eliminated, he didn't get up for like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
He was spent and he was beat. And that is how you make a star.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, you won the Royal Rumble, that's great. But him doing that to Brock Lesnar, that's a star-making performance. That's how you put people over.
I agree. And then, of course, you had the Edge return, which, just talk about moments. I mean, it was comparable. What do you think? What do you think was a bigger moment in retrospect? The Hardys returning at WrestleMania or Edge returning at the Royal Rumble?
It's got to be Edge. I mean,
Edge.
9 years. We thought he had to retire. The Hardys was to take nothing away from them. That was huge, but we still knew that those guys were active guys. Seeing Edge return was so special, and just that pop of the crowd. Mm-hmm. And now looking back, the fact that there were fans around for that makes it even more special. Because that crowd reaction was amazing, and just the look on Edge's face, like when he walked out, and you could just see the adrenaline going through his veins, and you could see how much it meant to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, another big match that I'm going to mention. We haven't mentioned much NXT, but as you may have known if you've heard the show, I'm a sucker for ladder matches. So the ladder match for the North American Championship was really good. Really good stuff.
Who was in that? I don't remember what this was.
Well, Damian Priest won. I don't remember Bronson Reed was in there. He had a star-making performance.
Gargano was in there.
Gargano was in there.
Green was in there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it was a great match nonetheless. Not as good as the first one, which is, I think in 2017, literally one of my favorite matches of all time. But I thought that match was fantastic. Let's move on to pay-per-views. I would say, considering the pandemic, more WWE and AEW too, who didn't run too many pay-per-views, but I would say overall, pretty good year for pay-per-views. What do you think, Dante, overall for, let's say, WWE pay-per-views?
If we're talking WWE pay-per-views, it's been an up and down year. I think when the pandemic hit, there's a little bit of a weird swing there with like the theme pay-per-views, like the weird Money in the Bank and the weirdly themed Extreme Rules. That was Halloween in July, but we don't want to talk about that right now. I think, but towards the stretch, though, once specifically Roman Reigns came back and business picked up, it just seemed like they kind of hit a good groove. Mm-hmm. SummerSlam was a pretty good pay-per-view. It followed up with Hell in a Cell was pretty good. Survivor Series, TLC, all pretty good. So, I mean, it's been an up and down year. There was a rough spot in the middle, but right now things are pretty good in WWE when it comes to pay-per-views. Yeah,
I agree. And Neil, what did you think of overall the year of pay-per-views, and maybe even what do you think of since Dante talked about WWE, what do you think of the AEW pay-per-views this year, or specials that they ran, or what have you?
The AEW pay-per-views this year were good. I mean, they run far less pay-per-views than WWE does, but whenever AEW does do a pay-per-view, they make sure to pull out all the stops and put out a good card for everybody to watch. But I do want to commend WWE on their pay-per-views this year. The week-to-week TV has kind of been hit or miss for me, but when they do put out a pay-per-view card, it usually delivers. There's been some low spots, but overall, I've really enjoyed what they did. And are we talking about what our favorite of the year was?
Yeah, we can. I was going to go there next, but yeah, we can go into that. What was your favorite pay-per-view of 2020, or some of your favorites?
Well, I really did enjoy TLC.
Yep.
This TLC card was awesome, but I'm trying to remember that might be some recency bias, like we said.
No, it was. I mean, objectively, it was good. Like I saw a ranking on Bleacher Report that was ranked number 2 for the year. So.
But kind of almost, I guess, sentimentally, I'm going to go with WrestleMania was my favorite. It was 2 nights. Okay. It was kind of right at the beginning of the pandemic when everyone's still freaking out. Like, I remember me being locked down in my house and just being like, kind of fearful of the outside world. And it was nice to be able to escape for a couple nights, and WrestleMania delivered a couple great nights of action. No crowd too. Like I went back like a month ago and I watched some of the WrestleMania matches, and there was that period of time where they had absolutely no one there, no fake crowd noise. So it was kind of a different style of wrestling, because they did play a lot of the, it relied on the actual hits of the wrestlers, the punches, the kicks, and listening to them trash talk each other. So it was very unique, and WrestleMania this year was special, and I will always remember that one. Yeah, I mean, too bad for everyone who was going to go in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, that sucks. At least you got a new one coming. But yeah, WrestleMania was definitely something special. It felt like the only big event. Like usually around WrestleMania time, you have like March Madness and the NBA's coming to an end, and you got the NHL, what's ever going on. But really, like we were saying earlier, it was like the only big event that we had to look forward to, and I would say it delivered. Dante, what would you say your favorite pay-per-view, or some of them, of 2020?
I mean, 2 that immediately come to mind. I think SummerSlam this year was such a really, really strong show. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre had a barn burner for the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns' major return capped off the night. And don't forget, Sasha Banks and Asuka had a hell of a match earlier that night, too. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But also, though, Double or Nothing this year from AEW was, to me, again, another really early pandemic pay-per-view that was so much fun. I mean, it was capped off by the Stadium Stampede match, which to me is one of my favorite cinematic matches I will ever see. And don't forget, there were some great matches. The TNT title was introduced at that pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Brody Lee and Moxley had their heavyweight championship match that was also incredible.
Yeah, I agree. Billy, what do you think? What was some of your favorite pay-per-views of 2020?
I think of TLC. I mean, that was a top from the top down. There was not a bad match on that show, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. Hell in a Cell, obviously. When we were talked about Double or Nothing was really good. But one thing I did want to mention, and I'm missing my notes here, so just kind of give me a second. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly it. Double or Nothing. I mean, overall, I don't think this was a bad year. I mean, sure, it was up
I don't
and
think
down,
so either.
but I think it was a pretty good year, all things considered. I mean, you did what you could, and with less focus on, what's the crowd feeling, it's just you're able to build the match that you want, potentially, I guess is how you put it out, because, you don't have to, because you can start, stop, you can edit footage, you can really make it as perfect as you want it to be. And that was the only good thing. One of the very few good things to come out of this whole thing. Also, one last thing that came out of this whole thing, there's no show in Saudi Arabia this year.
That's true. Sorry, Saudis.
Everybody celebrate that there's no show in Saudi Arabia. Isn't that great?
I mean, to be fair, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but still.
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't be there in the first place. But yeah, anyway.
No,
I can't wait
totally
till the
agree.
payback for this is a Saudi WrestleMania. It's gonna be fantastic.
They're gonna move the Thunderdome there. Just wait, Billy.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I do want to mention though that unfortunately there was one Saudi show this year. I know it seems like a long time ago, but they did
Yeah.
have Super Showdown.
Oh no! I forgot. Oh my god, that was like the
that
worst
was
thing
this
ever.
year.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, I
Yeah,
forgot.
that was the worst pay-per-view this year. Yeah, that was stinky.
God, yes, that's by far the worst pay-per-view ever.
Awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, there was only one Saudi show this year as opposed to like the three they had last year. So
Okay. Let me
kudos, COVID.
One thing I want to mention: Hell in a Cell, heck of a good pay-per-view this year. You had Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, which not the best technical match, but the story they told was something I had honestly never seen before. Also, you had Sasha versus Bayley, as we mentioned earlier. That was awesome. And then Randy versus Drew was good too. So you had 3 good Hell in a Cell matches. Basically everything in between was meh, but overall, I thoroughly enjoyed Hell in a Cell. But I got a question for all of you, and you can all answer individually. What was worse, Brock versus Ricochet at Super Showdown, or Bray versus Goldberg at Super
The
Showdown?
Fiend versus Goldberg, and I'm not going to hear anyone else because it's absolutely wrong. I don't care that they buried Ricochet and well, I do because Ricochet is great, but I get him off my screen. I don't need to see Bill Goldberg compete. Well, you know what? Maybe I do. Okay, you want to put him in some silly match with Dolph Ziggler with no repercussions? Fine, right? Put him in a friggin' title match. Have him beat your hottest guy. It blows my mind. Super Showdown was it was so bad that I forgot about it. I had it way back here in the back of my head in my salt and pepper mane that is just absolutely just flooded with hair right now.
The only reason
worst show of the year is Super Showdown 2020, and it's not close.
Oh yeah,
it's like we don't even need a segment on it. It's not even close.
No,
I'm trying to make it a glass half full kind of thing, and it's like, hey, I forgot Ricochet got a WWE Championship match this year, but you know
about that. Yeah, if we're on worst pay-per-views of the year, the only thing that I mentioned, because it wasn't a bad show, but I just recall the kind of full stop we had during the Broken Rules match, I believe it was, between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. I don't remember which show that was, but
All Out.
They all of a sudden had booked these things into a court because the stipulation was if Matt Hardy had lost, he left AEW, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can so kayfabe it. You could have so been like, okay, he's out of AEW now. LOL, just kidding. Tony Khan likes him more than Sammy Guevara, so here we go. I'm back on TV, and we get it. Dude's so hurt. Like he's very hurt. This man is very hurt. This fight, this is a predetermined fight. Like just you can fix it later, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was not a bad show, and I want to emphasize that. Not a bad show. I don't think we really got a bad show from AEW this year. That being said, Super Showdown, no question.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Super Showdown, was the pits. It was absolutely awful. It's one that also what doesn't help for it is that it's on at like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're like at work anyway, and you're like, yeah, should I check this out? Nah. Probably not.
But one thing to keep in mind, you guys, is that what happened when Neil brought up the fact that there was a Saudi show in 2020? How did we all react? Oh, fuck, you're right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You don't remember it because there's nothing memorable about it except stupid friggin' Oldberg. And I know I'm getting worked for this. And you know what? Maybe I'm getting worked. But get him off my title matches. Get him off my screen. No.
Yeah, I totally agree. I got no love for Goldberg. So what we're gonna move on to is let's go on to Wrestler of the Year, the person that you thought had the best year in total. Let's start with Dante. Who's your Wrestler of the Year?
Oh, I've said it earlier, and I'm going to say he finished strong. It has to be Randy Orton. I think he started strong in January, beginning an amazing feud with Edge that took it all the way to WrestleMania, past WrestleMania, to the greatest match ever. Not just a match, the greatest match ever. From there, he would take on Drew McIntyre in what were two fantastic matches and an ambulance match in between, but we don't talk about that. And he did win the WWE Championship once again. I think
14th
top
time.
to bottom. Oh, and just in case you want to question this, he will, light somebody on fire alive, kill them.
Yeah, he did that.
So I think top to bottom, you have to pick Randy Orton.
Neil, your favorite wrestler of 2020?
That's a tough one. A lot of people had great years this year, but I will go with Drew McIntyre for the fact that just his story, how long he has been working towards this goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a decade ago when Vince called him the chosen one, and it really did not work out for him at all. The fact that he left WWE, he came back, and in a time like 2020, they trusted him to put the belt on him and kind of carry the company this year. I got to go with Drew McIntyre. He did lose the belt to Randy Orton, like we said,
mm-hmm.
and Randy Orton helped him out a lot this year, really helped legitimize Drew McIntyre this year. But even Drew McIntyre has been back in WWE for like 2-3 years now, and to finally see him at the top, he just looks like a world champion when he walks the ring with that belt.
Yeah, he does. He's had a great reign. It's been sad though. I mean, he got the big pop at Royal Rumble for winning the Royal Rumble, but it's sad that we haven't got with fans. They haven't gotten him that applause yet, or that big moment where he could celebrate being champion. But yeah, definitely a great year for Drew McIntyre. Billy, your wrestler of the year.
I'm gonna do a quick three and then get to my number one. So,
sure.
Sami Zayn had an incredible year.
Yep.
His revamp is absolutely magical. And then John Moxley, obviously, just absolutely killed in AEW. And initially, my superstar of the year was Roman Reigns because of the comeback he did, his absolute incredible revamp that he's doing with Paul Heyman. But I already spoiled it, and the more I think about it, the answer is Bayley, because she took what she was given at the top of the card and just ran with it and just took off to the races. It took me a little bit to really, really buy in, but compared to where she, was at last year, I understand she's still a multiple time champion, but she's making it work so well. And I don't think anyone had a better year than Bayley.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't stand Bayley with her babyface gimmick. I couldn't stand her, but I mean, she's funny. She's legitimately funny. Like when she's joshing with the commentary team or whatever, when he's like yelling at them, she's funny. She's really funny. And my wrestler of the year, yeah, you could go Orton. You could go. I'm going to go to NXT, and I am going to go with. And this might be a controversial take, but I'm going to go with Johnny Gargano because I just thought that he had a fantastic year. He won the North American Championship once again, and I just think Gargano – I think Gargano is the best wrestler going right now. So just based off of that, I'm going to go with Gargano. Let's move on to this. What do you think – who do you think has the most – what wrestler do you think has the most to prove – in 2020? Like who do you think should have a chip 2021? Who do you think should have a chip on their shoulder moving on to 2021? And let's go with Dante.
Well, it's a tough one because there's a lot of guys that should be on this list, but the first person that comes that has a lot to lose and a lot to gain is Big E. There's no one who's going to close out the year on a higher note with a huge celebration in SmackDown, the new Intercontinental Champion. And I think when you look at the field of who's likely to win the Royal Rumble, I think Big E has to be at least in the top 4. So I think he has an opportunity now, and they're willing to put the racket strap on him. He has all of the New Day pop still. He has everything else. They're giving him the big boost. So I think if he's able just to get that opportunity, I think him and Roman Reigns at a marquee pay-per-view this year, 2021, I should say, would be huge for Big E.
Yeah, that would be huge. Billy, what do you think? Who has the most to prove, and who do you think is going to have a big year in 2021?
So when I hear this question, I guess what I'm hearing is that who do you want to see more from?
Sure.
If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that Vince needs to get over himself, and we need to see more Shayna Baszler in the main title picture. I mean, if I see someone who should beat Asuka and beat her really well, it should be Asuka. I mean, I'm sorry, it should be Shayna Baszler. I mean, she's an incredible talent, incredibly talented, has that hook. You can give her the title and you can give it back to Ronda Rousey if you really want to. Yeah, I want to see more from Shayna. I think she has a lot to offer. A lot more than that. And as much as we should focus more on the tag division and give the women's tag titles their just desserts, I want to see a big singles run from Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
And Vikings fan, the Vikings fan, school.
Absolutely. And they set it up like they were going to do something big with Shayna Baszler. Like basically the entire Elimination Chamber match was basically built around her being a dominant. And then she just loses, and then she goes into this tag feud thing, which is weird considering how much they basically gave the entire main event of their Elimination Chamber so that she could be a monster, and then didn't do anything. Neil, who do you think has something to prove in AEW or WWE? Who are you looking for a big year from?
When we first started talking about this, I was gonna say Keith Lee. I think his move to the main roster was a positive move for his career. I think he's in a really tough spot now on Raw because you have Drew McIntyre as the champion, and I just think Drew McIntyre works so well as champion right now that the fact that they've already kind of propelled Keith Lee to that main event spot, I'm not sure where they go from here with him. So I do hope the best for him, and I hope he excels in 2021. But I'm gonna go with Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah.
He had a great. His match with Finn Balor at TakeOver was an amazing match.
Yeah.
He really proved himself to me in that match. Not that proving yourself to me means anything, but it really showed that he can be a single star, I think. And the fact that he's been in Undisputed Era has helped him to this point. But I think he's really at a point right now where I think he could just be a single star. Because I mean, that guy can go. And if they wanted to bump him up to the main roster and give him a shot there, that'd be awesome. If they want to keep him in Undisputed Era, I think, that's fine just because historically it's worked for Undisputed Era. But I think that guy's got so much promise and so much potential that he's already showed us. And I think 2021, if you give him the ball, he will run with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was going to bring that up too. Someone who could have a huge 2021, the whole Undisputed Era. I mean, what are they going to do on the main roster? Who knows? I mean, they could have an absolutely huge year coming up and kind of running over things. I'd love to see them at some point hold all the gold. Like at some point, like tag team championships could go to O'Reilly and Fish. And then you have Roderick Strong, maybe with Intercontinental, and then Adam Cole, champion. Why not? That's why I'm going to go with Adam Cole, because I could see him going to the main roster here and maybe compete for a championship. So I think he has a huge 2021 if he wants to go to the main roster. If he doesn't, he'll still have a huge 2021 because he'll be killing it in NXT like he always does. But yeah, that's kind of who I am going to go with. And one more I wanted to get to before we wrap up the kind of the year in review. What do you think was the brand of the year? Of course, we got SmackDown, NXT, Raw, and we got what is Dynamite or whatever, AEW. What in your opinion, who do you think brought it the best? And let's go with Neil. Neil, what do you think was the brand of the year?
Well, I think WWE's brands had a huge advantage this year, but I'm going to go with AEW simply for the fact that they are such a new company, and I think they handled the pandemic extremely well this year. They've brought in a lot of big stars this year. Matt Hardy, Brody Lee, rest in peace. Sting, I'm sure I'm leaving off some other stars that they've brought up, and they've also elevated a lot of talent this year.
Rusev, whatever. I forget what Rusev's
Miro. That's
yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
But they've been elevating talent this year. Darby Allin is looking good. Orange Cassidy, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
MJF has really shined this year.
Oh yeah, he had a great year.
So just simply for the fact that I think they kind of, all companies were thrown a curveball this year, but AEW, the fact that they were just trying to get their legs under them as a new company, and then you get the pandemic thrown at you, I think they've really excelled this year.
I totally agree. And Billy, what do you think? Your brand of the year?
So I really think that both companies really brought it, given the circumstances. So I would kind of consider the playing field level there. So what it would come down to is what has the best pure wrestling. And WWE's roster is really talented on both shows and on NXT. I gotta give it to All Elite Wrestling. I think they did the best. I think they did the best this year, but honestly, I'd give it to all of them if I could, because they really made, they really made do with what they could. But I think pound for pound, match for match, you probably would say AEW.
Okay. Dante, what do you think? Your brand of the year?
I got to agree with both guys' points so far. AEW just top to bottom, pure wrestling rise has definitely been the show in 2020. But at the same time, I think I kind of want to give props to SmackDown in particular. When I look at this year and I think of some of my favorite moments in wrestling and favorite storylines, I think of Mandy Rose, Otis, and Dolph Ziggler. And that was on SmackDown before Roman came back. I think of Bayley and Sasha, who led WWE through a pandemic on SmackDown. I think of Roman coming back and taking SmackDown to a whole nother level with Jey Uso's storyline, elevating Kevin Owens right now, and not to mention what Sami Zayn is doing as the Great Liberator. So I just think, and I look at all of it together, and there's not too many wrestling shows that I just enjoy watching more right now on a week-to-week basis in SmackDown. And that's not something I thought I'd say at the start of 2020.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and you mentioned Sami Zayn. One match we do got to mention in our best match of the year, his ladder match. I forget what, was that SummerSlam?
That was Night of Champions, I think.
Night of Champions. Okay. The ladder match with Jeff and, I forget, was it AJ?
AJ Styles. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was one of Galaxy Brain. 3,000 IQ, Sami Zayn.
Yeah, no, that was, I would say that was the smartest match of the year. Like that was absolute genius. I honestly, and this is going to sound super biased again, my favorite brand was New Japan. Just kidding. But my favorite brand this year, and let me get this, I have nothing against New Japan. I just don't personally watch it. But what I do watch the most is definitely NXT. And I think some stuff that NXT did on a week-to-week basis, I mean, they finally got their own show to compete with AEW. I mean, I know that happened in 2019, but still, they had some banger stuff on their week-to-week program and some of the specials that they run. Like I'm super excited for New Year's Evil. That's going to be great. I'm also like, remember when they gave a fatal four-way for the championship just on free TV, a 60-minute Iron Man match. And that was absolutely amazing. That was so much fun. So for some of the fun I've had this year on NXT, I'll give it to NXT. So I think that kind of wraps up the year in review. Let's go around before we do the last shot, since we do have kind of a mini pay-per-view kind of special coming up. Let's give our predictions for NXT New Year's Evil, which, first of all, I think is a great name. So we have Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez in a last woman standing match. Dante, who you got in that one?
I'm going to go with Raquel Gonzalez. She got the massive push at War Games. And what a match that's going to be, by the way. That's going to be such an athletic, big woman battle. That's actually going to be very hype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Billy, your thoughts on that match?
Raquel Gonzalez, yeah. I think Rhea Ripley is a star, and she's always going to be a star. But right now, if you're trying to build a new star, you need to give this one to Raquel Gonzalez, and I'm actually very excited to see how this match turns out, because beating Rhea Ripley in a last woman standing match is no easy feat. So
right,
just to see, that doesn't mean that Raquel is going to win, but hopefully she will, and for her to get there is going to be something incredible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Billy, your thoughts on the match?
I think that Raquel will win, but then afterwards you need to give something to Rhea. I mean, because she had it was a tough year for her. I mean, not like, you know, like just story wise, it was a rough year for Rhea Ripley, and I think that you can't have a star like that. You can't have a star like that and just let them do nothing. Mm-hmm. And I think that after this, you really start a really good redemption arc for Rhea Ripley that potentially ends with her facing Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania again.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next match that we have on the docket is Damian Priest versus Karrion Kross. Do you guys think that this is the ascension of Karrion Kross? Neil, what do you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, Karrion Kross, they put the NXT Championship on him earlier this year, and unfortunately, that was this year, right? And unfortunately, he got hurt, so we had to relinquish that. So obviously, they see a lot in him. I personally have not seen much from Karrion Kross that makes me think that this is the next guy. But apparently,
I agree.
NXT sees something in him. Damian Priest is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's gonna suck for him if he loses this match, but he's always gonna be a badass. But I believe they're gonna go with Karrion Kross.
And Billy, what do you think of this match?
So when it comes to this match, I will have to go with Karrion Kross. I know not everyone can be the guy, but man, there's something there. So I think that if you have him win, maybe if you don't have anything else for him at NXT, have him move up to the main roster and just kill everyone. Just kill.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Dante, you agree? You think it's Karrion Kross's time?
I do. I just want to point out, though, with Kross, they've been having him squash so many people that it's hard to see his work rate. But, man, if you let the guy go, he's really impressive. He showed a lot when he was in TNA, which is why I hope he gets a bit of time with Damian Priest next week, because, man, those two can really tear it down if they just get enough time and don't allow Kross to just crush Priest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And then the next match, Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher in the Fight Pit. They're bringing back the Fight Pit. I believe the last time we had the Fight Pit, it was Matt Riddle and let's see, who was he fighting? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was Thatcher.
Thatcher. Okay, so they're bringing that. Okay, let's start with Dante. What do you think of this match? Who's going to win? Who comes out on top? I think it's Thatcher, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's Thatcher too. I feel like this is his signature match, and that's what they're going to make his gimmick in NXT. I'm just happy there's another Fight Pit. I don't care who wins. I just want more Fight Pit, Fight Pit, monthly Fight Pits. But I just
daily Fight Pits.
Excited for the match. It's going to be a violent match, and it's going to be a doozy.
You know the first rule of Fight Pit, though, right?
You don't talk about Fight Pit.
We don't talk about Fight Pit, but we are going to. Billy, who's going to come out on top in this one? What do you think of the match?
I just can't beat a dead horse. It's going to be Thatcher, and it's going to be amazing. I mean, what else can you say? It's going to be great. It's going to be violent. Just strap yourself in. Maybe get nice and cozy before you just see two men absolutely beat the piss shit out of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, you agree with everything that's been said?
No, I think Tommaso's going to win this one. Since he's come back from injury, he's kind of been, I don't know, like he's been kind of demoted to like a mid-card, it seems. Mid-card type of guy, even though that's not him at all. I think he's a main event type of guy. Timothy Thatcher, from what I've seen from him, he looks good. He looks legit. But I think you need to give Tommaso a win to get him back on track here. Even though it's not like they've been burying him or anything, but I think a fight pit match could be a signature win for Tommaso Ciampa. And I did not know it was a fight pit match until you just mentioned it. So I'm very excited to see the return of that thing because that thing looks sweet.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I am going to go with like the other two guys were saying. I'm going to go with Thatcher, but because I think that Ciampa, I mean, he's been in NXT so long, I think that he'll be okay with a loss. Particularly since he got the win earlier over Thatcher. But yeah, I could see Tommaso winning, but yeah, I think Thatcher's going to win. The one that they've really been hyping up on NXT these past couple weeks, I mean, really, really hyping up as like match of the year candidate, almost like the NXT's version of the best match ever. Round 2 between Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. Let's start with Dante. Who do you think wins, and what do you think about this match?
Man, it's going to be a fantastic match, but I just think that storyline-wise, there has to be something here. And I don't know why, but I feel like Finn Balor's going to win, but I feel like the Undisputed Era may be coming to a close on New Year's Evil. I don't know why, but I feel like an Adam Cole heel turn. It's coming very soon. I don't know why. I hope I'm wrong.
Do you think that means they go to the main roster or work it out on NXT?
I think they're working on an NXT.
Okay. Interesting. Neil, what do you think? Who's gonna come on top here?
Well, the last match that they had, like I mentioned, was the last match Finn and Kyle O'Reilly had, which I believe was Finn Balor's last match, correct? Because he broke his jaw.
Yep.
During that match, so we haven't seen Finn in the ring yet. Since then, this is a tough one because my head tells me that you just keep the belt on Finn, but I think it's so much more interesting if Kyle O'Reilly wins. Like Dante said, possibly teasing a split with the Undisputed Era. You know, Kyle O'Reilly wins that. Maybe he gets a big head. Maybe Adam Cole gets a little jealous. But man, imagine Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole for the NXT championship.
Oh, yes, please.
Giving Kyle O'Reilly the win would just open up so many more interesting opportunities for stories on NXT. I think. This is so tough.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just go against my head and I'll go with my heart and I will say Kyle O'Reilly.
Okay. Yeah, because I think so too. I think that O'Reilly's going to win because I like the Ciampa thing. Finn's going to be fine. Like Finn can do no wrong. There's no reason that, and if they want to do a Finn versus O'Reilly 3 where he comes back and fights again, that's fine too. Also, you had all the O'Reilly and Pete Dunne stuff in War Games that you had all of that stuff, which could be leading to something. But I'm going to go with O'Reilly too. Billy, who do you got?
I
know it's tough.
My head says Finn Balor, but for all the reasons previously stated, my heart says Kyle O'Reilly. Oh man, can you imagine Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship, man?
My God.
Oh man, just please inject that directly into my veins like it's hard drugs. That match is better than hard drugs. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Kyle O'Reilly because that's what I want, and I don't care if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and just think about it. I mean, anything with Kyle O'Reilly. They're going to do Adam Cole, but if Kyle O'Reilly keeps it for a little bit, Kyle O'Reilly versus Timothy Thatcher, Kyle O'Reilly versus like I was mentioning, Pete Dunne. Just so many possibilities with Kyle O'Reilly. And the last match from New Year's Evil, once again, great name, is Tony Storm and Io Shirai. Do you think, Billy, that it's time for Io Shirai's reign to end? And is it Tony time? Is it Tony time?
Is Raquel Gonzalez a face? I don't think she is.
No, isn't she a heel, I believe?
She's a heel.
Then it's got to be Io Shirai. I mean, that's really the only logical answer here. I mean, they don't do a whole lot of heel versus heel stuff, which it would be really cool. And Tony Storm is super awesome, but I have to go with Io Shirai, but one day Tony Storm will be NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah, I mean,
one day Tony Storm, if she decides to go to the main roster, will be WWE Women's Champion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, a fact.
She did just get here, like literally just a little bit ago, so it might be a little too early. Dante, who you got in this match? Is it Tony time?
Not yet. I mean, for all the reasons Billy said, I mean, it's just not quite time with Raquel Gonzalez lurking. I think you have to pick the face. I think, though, Toni Storm is kind of the victim of such a strong NXT women's division. It's so stacked that she almost kind of has to become a challenger of the month kind of thing, when normally she would be a massive opponent for Io. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And Neil, is it Tony time?
It's not Tony time. It's not quite Tony time.
Okay.
It's Io Shirai's time. I think she deserves the reign that she's had, and like these guys are saying, you got such a stacked women's division, and there's so many challengers that could face Io Shirai, and I just want to see more matchups with Io.
It will be Tony time.
It will be
at some point.
I promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
It
would be stupid not to put it that way.
Believe that.
So we are. Field. Yeah, absolutely. So we are super excited for New Year's Evil. It should be a good show. I mean, that's also been something, these NXT like kind of small shows on USA. They've been really good. So we'll see what goes with that. But I think we're gonna skip the big question this week because we are going kind of long here. But we are going to go with the last shot.
It's time for the guys to give their hot takes of the week. It's time for the last shot.
Just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
If you don't know about the last shot, we are going to give about a 30-second rant or some hot take in wrestling. And who wants to go first?
My last shot is that Dante should be more of a cat person. No. I think what I really have is this. I think that after everything that this year has brought, just be grateful for what we have when we have it. I mean, it's just super cool that the wrestling companies that we had did what they could, and I think they did it really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Dante, you want to go next?
Yeah. I want to give just a shout out to probably WWE's underrated and underappreciated MVP of the year, and that's their documentary team. Who have been just cranking out unbelievable piece after piece after piece with the WWE 24s on Edge and Drew McIntyre, just to name a few. And that's before we even talk about The Last Ride with The Undertaker, that was such an incredible, 5-part documentary series. So, I mean, those guys do an incredible job and they're the best in the industry by far. So props to those guys.
I think the only real bad part about The Last Ride of The Undertaker, like, it's cool to see him pull back the curtain. But remember when WWE told all their superstars they couldn't be on Cameo on Twitch, and then they pulled that nonsense with The Undertaker to it? Cameos? I heard you're a really good basketball
That stuff was
player.
Hilarious.
To hear
them all in character, like, my God.
A man with so much mystique and so much talent and just so much lore behind him going, Andrew, I heard you were a really good basketball player. I wanted me to tell you happy birthday. Like, what? There's no such thing as killing a business, but come on.
This is as close as you're going to get to see an Undertaker at the damn conventions.
Neil, you got a last shot for me?
My last shot is I really think 2020 is I'm thankful for the wrestling business in 2020 because we've seen so much stuff this year that I don't think we would have never seen it had it not been for the challenges thrown at their companies because of the pandemic and not being able to have fans. I mean, you talk about the Boneyard match, that probably wouldn't have happened. Who knows what the Firefly Funhouse match was going to be. You had the ridiculous Stadium Stampede match There's just been so many things that just would have never happened. Some good, some bad. I'm not sure what the eye versus the eye match would have been. I don't think we would have seen that. That was kind of weird. But I'm just saying there's been so many just ridiculous things where I just had to just shake my head and be like, I can't believe I'm seeing this right now. And that goes all the way up to just last week. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we saw The Fiend get burned alive right in the middle of the wrestling ring. What an interesting visual that was. And then last week, something that I thought was completely bizarre was Alexa Bliss pouring a can of gasoline over her head right in the middle of the ring. I just don't know if we would have ever seen anything like these kinds of stories, if it weren't for the circumstances that we have. So I'm just thankful that, they've thought outside the box this year and have given us some pretty unforgettable moments.
I'm going to open up my last shot with the question. Why can't every girl be more like Alexa Bliss? How could a chick on TV make me feel like this? She's got a finishing move called Twisted Bliss, and it's like my heart's been caught in a sweet sleeper hold.
Oh, you're quoting the friggin' song. Oh, my God.
That's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say for this week's last shot. Well, guys, it's been a fun night. Like I said, we will be here next week. We're going to talk about the John Huber / Brody Lee tribute show. We will talk about that. We're also going to talk about our reactions from NXT New Year's Evil. And yeah, so without further ado, any last thoughts, guys?
My New Year's resolution is more WrestleBois episodes in 2021.
There you go. Yeah. I like that. And make sure to listen on Spotify, Anchor Podcasts, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And this has been WrestleBois.